Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Robert Weichelt for another episode of Weichelt Wednesday. We've got a great guest today, Tyler Amaya. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing fantastic. So let's get right down to it. We just spent some time at REO Connect. You had some great stuff to share with the audience. So before we get started, who's Tyler Amaya?
Yeah, I'm an asset manager. Well, started as an asset manager for PEMCO Capital. I've been in the default space for about 8 years. I have a background in economics and finance from Claremont Mckenna, and I've done some research in the academic world on non-performing loans. I am now heading up all of portfolio management for PEMCO Capital, and I've been, I think I mentioned I've been here for about 8 years. So that's where I am now.
Wow, that's a pretty good background, that's for sure. So let's dive into it. Tell us about PEMCO Capital.
PEMCO Capital is we like to call ourselves a boutique investment platform. We focus on unique acquisition channels where we can maybe cut out some of the competition. One of the channels that we're particularly known for is our participation in the nonprofit space. So we have a nationwide network of nonprofits that we work with and have had long-standing trusted relationships with them, where we are the asset manager and we also provide them with capital. So we act as the liaison between these 501c3 housing nonprofits that are well established that are looking to buy assets. And we are the asset manager. We ensure that they are compliant for any nonprofit reporting. We look out for their interests in the public sphere, and then we work with private investors to bring them financing.
Wow, lots of stuff going on there. That's great.
Yeah, that's just one of our acquisition channels, but I would say that that's our what we're most known for out of all of them. We do conventional deals as well.
Yeah, you know what? I was in the default space, the REO space in the 90s. And I call that the glue stick era, where the BPOs were done. You know, we go to the 1 hour photo, wait for the photos to get processed. We'd take a glue stick and glue stick it onto the photo addendum, and we'd mail in a big, thick BPO for every property. And then it came back around in the early 2000s, 5, 6, 7, 8, so on. And it was obviously more technology, but leading up to another default market. What's going on in terms of, the market? What are you seeing happening in the real estate space right now?
Yeah, the last year has been interesting. We've seen a lot of different opinions on where it is going to go, but at least where we stand right now, we don't see real estate values going anywhere, seeing any big drops soon. That's our anticipation. A few months back, well, not a few months, but when rates started moving around, I think the general consensus was that there was going to be maybe a larger drop, and there was more fear of that previously, where anything can change at any moment. But as we currently stand, we're thinking that prices may stay fairly consistent, although definitely not what they were doing in the COVID times, where that was just crazy, through the roof, skyrocketing prices. So that was definitely not normal.
That was an interesting time. I have an online offers platform, so the buyers get to transparently compete against other buyers instead of having a highest and best, blind offer. So I was finding that buyers were just overpaying for properties. They were buying it up. And then I'm finding that it's starting to be like that again, where the buyers are coming out in full force. There's a line around the block, lots of little inventory, lots of interest. So lots of interesting things.
Yeah, we've definitely seen things pick back up, which was surprising for where we track the futures market. So that gives us a really good consensus of what general investors think is going to be happening in the future. Obviously, that changes every time the Fed changes rates, or,
sure,
when the banks were starting to be questionable, that sort of thing. It changes every moment, but that gives us the general consensus of what everyone is thinking it will be 6 months from now, 1 year from now. And we saw those numbers changing constantly, which gave us a pretty good gauge.
Yeah.
And then obviously just from being out and around and talking to people, you get a feel for what everyone is thinking. But watching the futures and the pricing indexes has been helpful for us. We actually, right when rates started moving around, placed a hedge on the futures market to hedge some of our portfolio, and then we ended up removing that once we felt comfortable again.
Well, a lot of study, that's for sure. You got to really kind of pay attention to what's happening and really become a student of the game. And you've clearly have done that. What's the closing message that you'd like to say to maybe an agent that wants to get into the REO space or that's already in the REO space? What do you want to say to those agents that might be tuning in?
Yeah, I think there's a few things that, in my opinion, would add value. One of them being out at all of these events. We just got back from REO Connect, so having a network where I can go to someone and say, hey, even though you don't cover this area, do you have a recommendation? That's really helpful and goes a long way in remembering who that person was, that they were valuable in more ways than just one. And also having contacts for vendors and contractors is huge in your area. We have our own database of contractors and vendors as well, but being able to source multiple bids, different avenues, super helpful with timeline. So those, I would say, are the two things that I go to agents outside of your day-to-day scope of obviously selling our properties. Yeah, wherever you can provide connections where we're maybe have a hole in our coverage, or definitely having a lengthy or a large network that we can pull from makes you valuable to us.
Absolutely. Boots on the ground, expertise in the in the market, getting the seller the highest and best price in the shortest amount of time, and having those resources saying, hey, Robert, I'm not looking for something in San Diego quite yet, but I need somebody in Texas or Arizona, and having those relationships that you can relate to and really grow that network. So that's a great ad. So you know what? I really appreciate your time, Tyler, and Penco Capital. You guys are doing all the great stuff. So I really just thank you so much for your time today and sharing what's going on with not only you, your company, and in the market. And so I really appreciate you being my guest today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
You got it. Thanks so much.